Welcome to the TryPod, where we break down the NRL every game, every week from a punting perspective. I'm Jacob Wynn, and I am barbecuing alone this evening to wrap up the final 6 games. Thanks for joining me, guys. Bear with me as I go live everywhere. I think Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. I should be able to see some of your comments come through. Let me know if you hear me loud and clear. 1-1 on the best bets this weekend. So a 3-1 opening round, depending on how you look at it. You're happy with 3-1. You're not happy when you lose a mixed matchup. We got in such a hole yesterday, getting it horribly wrong with the Titans tip. Yes, I will talk about the Titans. Don't worry. And then it's just annoying. How much did the Cowboys win by? I swear I flicked it off right at the end when they scored. But then I'm looking at the final score. Did that get disallowed or something? Because I think the Cowboys won 43-18, so a 25-point victory. The Titans lost by 24, but we needed those combined to get up by 13. It was on late in the game when the big Cowboys blowout was on, and that was the winning best bet, the Cowboys. But you guys want to know, you want to see me face the fire, right, about the Titans. I should say Clarkie's not here because his contract says he doesn't have to do the recap show if the Titans lose. No, he is. He's on the road and he's got family commitments, so we're letting him off the hook. I'll face the music for this one. I've got that many messages in the last 12 hours, last night. You still think the Titans will make top 4? Mate, you picked this team for top 4. You are kidding yourself. And I will say, in my response, it will be tougher to make the 4 with that negative 24 points differential. But it is obviously a long season. I would honestly say there is a difference between picking something at $10 and saying it will happen. I didn't come out and say it will happen, but they were my breakout team. And look, I got roasted for my Knights pick a year ago when they lost the opening round as well. It's like, it's a season-long prediction. So I'm not going to take a victory lap on. There's a few teams I picked to miss the 8 that had disappointing losses this weekend. There's some teams I picked to do well this year that looked pretty good, but I'm not going to take a victory lap on any predictions that look good after one game. However, being the fact that I did really like the Titans to be under the radar this year, and they didn't just lose, they lost at home by 24 points as a try favourite against a team in St. George that everyone's got pretty much bottom 4. And that's not bad enough. I had the Titans as a best bet. I had them built into the matchup. I do have to answer for that. So, let me have it in the comments. That I will get to that game specifically, but that was a horrible performance, a horrible start. And while you're at it, do you remember who my buy of the season was? Spencer Leniu. So that are my only mistakes either. I've got another mistake that I made this week that I'll confess to. What I would say in general about round 1, now we've seen all, we haven't seen all the teams. West Tigers will see next week, but 16 teams we've seen out there. It goes to show you that round 1 does not seem to correlate that much to 2023. In fact, you look this round, I mean, the Cowboys being an exception today and Para yesterday, but 6 of the 8 games were won by the team that finished lower on the ladder last season. And if you extend it to AFL, and I know a lot of people watching are like, I don't care about AFL, but it's the same principles. There were 4 AFL games in their opening round this weekend. All 4 were won by the team lower on last year's ladder. Same sort of note. If you include AFL, look at the 4 grand finalists across AFL and NRL. They all lost this round. So I think, and that's head-to-head, not just with the line. And I think there is some logic there that, teams that had bad years might train a bit harder in the preseason. You've also got the fact that teams that did well last year had a longer season, kind of therefore didn't get into their preseason as quickly, and they're going to taper themselves a little bit more. So, I did to a degree. If you look at the teams that I backed in round 1, my 4 best bets, Manly, Gold Coast, North Queensland, they all had bad years last year. So I was trying to get onto that trend. And even the Roosters didn't have a good year last year, and I took them against Brisbane, who were gangbusters. So, look, I was trying to do that. And part of it as well is just it was a very unpredictable round. And we'll go game by game and talk about that. But the wider trend, I think, which I did say, was round 1, we haven't seen these teams for a long time. Expect the unexpected. And we got a little bit of that. And I'd love to hear your thoughts, anything you guys picked up from the action as well. I want to rewind to Thursday night. where the Knights hosted the Raiders and the Knights were significant favourites, but it was the Green Machine winning 28-12 in Newcastle. You've got to be disappointed for the Knights. I mean, they get 25,000 people out there on a school night to support them, and to give up an effort like that where they're just outworked and they're outmuscled. Now, I felt like it was only, I think, a 2-point game at halftime. I still felt like the Knights should have the class in this one. They still look terrifying every time Kalen Ponga has the ball, but they just didn't seem to get into shape and get Ponga playing off the back of it nearly enough. I guess it comes back down to partially, if you're not playing on the front foot, you can't bring the backs and the playmakers into play. And I think that's the story of this Raiders upset. The Raiders forward pack, like every set, right? Every set, you're starting with got a couple of outside backs taking the first couple of carries. But play 3, play 4, play 5, every set was a combination of Big Papa looking pretty fresh, Joe Tapine, the other big boys off the bench, punching a hole, like some really strong carries in the middle of the field, pushing the defenders back, bending the line. Maybe there's an offload in there. They're standing in the tackle. If they're brought to ground, they find their front. It got the Raiders up the field non-stop all game. You had 350 metres from your starting middle 3 and another 200 metres from your 3 middles off the bench. Fogarty's kicking game on the back of that. He was able to have some measured kicks and kick for field position. So I felt like every time the Knights got it was deep within their half against an organised defensive line. There was probably only one kick return where the defensive line wasn't up to scratch and the Knights actually scored, but Canberra got lucky there with the obstruction called. Levi did well to milk it, and Levi was my key moment of this match. I think scoring that dummy half try in the second half, bringing the score from 8-6 to 14-6 really busted the game open. The Knights never got a foothold again, and that's not good enough. I think he split Hetherington and Saifidi, just kind of sleeping on him there. I know he would have been happy to score against his former team. Colt says Sticky loves an ambush. Too many errors cost Newcastle. Raiders rock solid. Completely agree. Let's move to Friday, where we'll start across the ditch with another upset. How many upsets? There were 5 straight upsets to open round 1, if you go back to Vegas. And in this case, it was Cronulla coming from 12-0 down to defeat New Zealand 16-12. And I thought that the Sharks were nearly beaten in the first 20 minutes. I mean, New Zealand starts pretty much flawless. I think 1 or 2 calls went their way, but no mistakes, relentless, energy, enthusiasm off the crowd. It's 12-0 inside 12 minutes, before you know it. And I really feel, not just because the final score Sharks got to 16, but I felt at the time, if New Zealand scores again, it's curtains. Like if New Zealand were to get a third try there, I really feel like that might have put them away. So Cronulla was lucky to just hang tough, just hang in the game. That was after Fanua Blake scored against his future club. Metcalf scored easy, which was a worrying sign. But as I say, Cronulla turns New Zealand away after there were more attacking sets on their line. And just like last game, I point out that Levi try from dummy half, sets up the Raiders win. Well, in this case, Ramian, when the Sharks finally got a little bit of territory towards the end of the first half, Ramian scores a soft burrow over try that gets Cronulla back in the game. 12-6 down for the Sharkies. They would have felt like that was a win, because given everything that occurred in the first half, you're in the game at halftime. And then Cronulla comes out, has the lion's share of ball and field position, and actually gets ahead by the hour mark. And it was a great game. It was gripping, and New Zealand then had the final swing of the pendulum, had the ball in attack, kind of final 10 minutes of this game. Cronulla had to be really gritty and tough to hang on for that win. They earned the right to get in front, had to hang on. Could New Zealand come up with the winning try? RTS looks pretty good. You're looking for some Sean Johnson magic that came time and time again last year. It wasn't to be. And going back to kind of players that really stood out to me, I thought the Cronulla bench, that changed the game. The likes of Williams, Rudolph, Hazelton coming on really lifted them. Don't forget, you got Hamlin Uele to rejoin this team as well. Then another surprise later Friday night. It was the Melbourne Storm extending this winning streak since, I think, 2002. So it was about the 22nd straight year, 22, 23 years, depending on how you look at it. 23 straight years unbeaten in round 1. And the odds were against them in this one because it was the back-to-back-to-back premiers coming to town. But not only that, Cam Munster ruled out for the game. So this line, as I spoke to Clarkey about, originally did jump to 5.5, and by kickoff was 6.5 in the Panthers' favour. And look, one thing I will say about the Storm Panthers game, two of the best teams we've seen. Obviously the Panthers have owned the 2020s. The Storm have been around, been thereabouts for, we're talking nearly 20 years now. But wouldn't have wanted this game played in Vegas. It's 2-0 to the Melbourne Storm at half time. So that sunk my same game. I don't think many same gamers would have got up in that one. And to me, if I was to criticise Penrith, and they were blanked here, it does look like they're expecting a lot of Cleary. Like they expect everything to come from Cleary. I know Luai has not had much of a preseason, so therefore he just wasn't himself. You wouldn't have seen Luai play and thought, oh yeah, that's the guy who is touted as the saviour for the Tigers, and they're going to make one of the highest paid players in the game. Like it looked like he was working himself back in. Dylan Edwards is not like a traditional creative fullback. Even Isaiah Yeo, he does his best work when he links with Cleary. So he would dig into the line and he would feed Cleary. But dare I say it, like it wasn't that hard for the Storm to actually contain Nathan, as brilliant as he is, when they knew they weren't worried about too much else around him. So I feel like in the past, Penrith could hit you on any side and they had multiple playmakers. You have to say it's only one game, but they do miss Stephen Crichton for sure. I mean, they're held scoreless, so that's not an outlandish statement. But let's talk about the team that won the game too. Give a huge amount of credit to the Storm because they're incredibly disciplined and showed a lot of heart. Said Munster out, but Pezzett held his own, had the assist for the only try in this game, which was Remus Smith. Kamikamica could have put the Panthers to bed if he could have held the ball. And you thought, oh, does Penrith just get themselves back in this as they do so often? But Storm hangs on. And, if you want to talk about preseason predictions, I had the Storm missing the 8 as another bold call. And I really questioned the middles. Well, you've passed a very stout test in round 1. You don't get many packs kind of with better middles than Penrith. And the Storm certainly stood up to it. So doubting them looks silly again. But I won't dwell on, that being a terrible call because I also had a bold call. Penrith misses the 4. And maybe this is emblematic of the fact that Penrith just won't have it all way this year. But the point is, I was always going to kind of go 1-1 on how my predictions looked after that game because I opposed both these sides relative to what the market expected. So either way, I was surprised with how well Melbourne did given the conditions and the opponent. And maybe you do go back to a tough preparation for Penrith when you had to travel all the way to the Northern Hemisphere and then to Melbourne in round 1. Because as Colt mentions there, no Nelson. That was another reason why I couldn't quite take Melbourne on Tuesday for the preview. So, yeah, outstanding effort for sure. Take nothing away from Melbourne. That record means a lot. I think it means a lot to the players, more so than Bellamy, that they know it's Bellamy's record, but they want to keep winning for him. We move to Saturday, and I've got a confession to make as we talk about the Eels, who rolled Canterbury 26-8. So my confession is that I messed up here. I missed a best bet. Eels minus 5.5 should have been a best bet on Tuesday. And when I had looked at all the odds and all the games, just wasn't quite going to take Para with the line at 6.5, which is what I had seen. And I even said it on the show when someone commented. I said, yeah, if Para was minus 5.5, that would be a best bet. But it is a difference to me once the line gets beyond 6. However, after the show, someone showed me that on Better, it actually had dropped back down to 5.5. And so I missed that. And it's bloody annoying. But, in a round where a lot of upsets did really well, I was hoping that maybe Canterbury could surprise. But in fact, you watched the game and Para won it as easily as you could like. Para got on top early and never looked back. They were patient with their play, but they were decisive when the opportunities came. 14-0 at halftime. That Cartwright try, the first of 2, late in the first half, really built the separation there and made it hard for the Dogs. And that was on the back of a Bulldogs error. And Cardi scored again second half. You tell me. I thought that might have been a double movement, but it was game over by that point. Although Canterbury, yes, they had back-to-back tries. Critter did cross for his first try for the club in his debut, but when Burton missed both conversions, the closest Canterbury got was 20-8. And if you laid 5.5, you would have still felt very comfy. And in fact, the Eels capped it with a final try. Standouts to me, it's the usual suspects for Parramatta, but particularly Junior Bolo, like fresh. Some of the big boys this round, they looked a bit fresher because they haven't been beat up all season. It takes 3 or 4 people to bring Big Junior down, and that's literally how Cartwright scores a one-off try in the first half, because the defence has to collapse in to tackle Bolo just before the line, and then you just go flat to Cartwright, and he scored easily after that battering ram run by Junior. So there were not good signs for the Dogs, I will say that. Again, I thought that would be kind of predictable that Parramatta, with the continuity, would be able to execute better. And again, that's why I am kicking myself, because I pride myself not only on being able to read the game reasonably well, be right more often than I'm wrong at least, but then to find the best plays that are out there. And I missed that one. And when I miss it, it doesn't mean I've missed a winner, because they're not always going to win. But boy, when you miss a play and then it goes on a win and win easily, that hurts. And guess what? The next game hurt as well. What's the comment there? I'll read Colt's comment. Thought Para was a great bet. They are in for a good year. Dogs lacking cohesion will take time to get in the groove. Exactly right, you know. And in hindsight, it's so easy to say why weren't we on them. But I was saying a lot of these things in the preview, so that's what really bothers me. James Graham, who's a former Bulldogs captain, says Crichton captain ? So you should know that. He's a new captain, mate. Yeah, as I said, that was painful to watch. And then it got worse last night. St. George Illawarra 28 beat the Gold Coast 4. And look, in some ways, if I'm going to be wrong, because I'm not going to get every best bet right, so if I'm going to be wrong, I'd rather be way wrong than be just narrowly wrong, or just lose one that can go either way by a couple of points. But given that this was my biggest call of the preseason, and as I said before, you're tying in a best bet, you're tying in a mixed matchup, like that was horrible. And it started badly and it never really got much better. The Titans give away a penalty first set in defense. Dragons are onto their try line, give up a try first attacking set for the Dragons. Like, that's not very resilient. And then I still wasn't too worried. The Titans dominated field position and had most of the ball for the first half, but they just came away with very little to show for it. They got one try with a kick in behind, and they should have had more just given the possession. Or it was to Dragons at halftime. You know, it's anybody's game. But to come into the second half, that's obviously where the damage is done. 22-0 to the Dragons the second half, you know, and where it really turned was the Dragons making it, the Titans making that unforced error. It was Kelly, you know, just spilling it, the ball being thrown to him when you've got to take some safe carries off your own try line. But the thing is, both teams made errors. I mean, Ben Hunt dropped the second half opening kickoff, right? Both teams made errors, but the Dragons had the toughness to defend theirs. The Titans couldn't. So when the Titans spill the ball, of course, then they give up a try. So that's the difference in the game. I'm sure the stats will tell you the possession's pretty equal, completions are pretty equal. Both sides got tackles in the opponent 20. Dragons did stuff with this. The Dragons were able to open the Titans up multiple times. The Titans couldn't breach the Dragons line. So again, you give credit to a team that defended like it meant a lot to them to win. Because there was a number of tackles where the Titans players were either held up over the line or just short, where you really felt like that they could have easily scored, but the Dragons defended much more desperately. The Titans did not. I mean, even I felt like the Titans were threatening through the middle with some nice scoots. Sammy Verrills running it early and often, but in fact, it was a scoot by Little that completely opened up the Titans. Again, you're lazy. You're not filling the gap there. And that set up one of Sloane's 3 tries. So he had a day out. The Red V, yeah, that was a knockout blow, in fact, that try. And, you know, if I revisit why I picked the Titans, I said, I know how St. George wants to play. Sorry, I'm going to be moving around on the fly here, guys. I just realized my laptop's not plugged in. And the power is going to drop out in a second. How good is that? A bit of live Live podcasting. Hopefully that's better. Just got the warning sign from the laptop. Look, I knew how the Dragons would want to play and what they want to do and that they want to out-tough their opponent, but I just could accept no excuse for how Gold Coast could come out in the season opener and let that happen and let themselves get bullied when they've got the bye next week. You could give bigger minutes to your key players like Tino. Now I'm seeing in the comments, Colt, again, foreign pulled out, our halves, our chances went out the door, halves biggest problem. So for sure, I probably don't pick the Titans if I know foreign's out. I mean, the irony that on Tuesday in the preview, I said not once but twice, the beauty of playing the Titans in round one is, foreign's not injured because he hasn't been playing the season yet, and he still managed to be pulled out injured. I think it's a hamstring he did at the trial or training, but no, I didn't know anything about that till well after the best bet. So, look, that's annoying, but it's not an excuse. Foreign plays this game the way they play, they still lose. They still lose by double digits. It's just ironic, if anything. Let's talk more about the team that won. If you're a St. George fan, you look at the way Sloan played and you're going, okay, if he plays up to his potential, then you have a genuine gun fullback. Much made of Lomax. Is he happy? He did really well on the wing. And I have to say, hi, Daniel Nickel, I have to say that the way that the rules have changed now, and there's going to be more contested possessions, and I don't call a forced dropout a repeat set anymore. I still hear the commentators saying a repeat set. It's not a repeat set. It's 50-50 at best, right? These are all contests. Having a player with his prowess, Zach Lomax, under the high ball is a real extra asset, given all these short restarts. And Lomax actually dropped a couple in this game, but he's always getting to it first and highest. And I think St. George could have won by even more if Lomax had caught all of them, including one that was an attacking kick over the try line. Look, the Titans, of course, they can improve. You can only get better from there. But, Foreign, as we said, wasn't playing. Dave Fafita's out. Jaden Campbell comes in. But how about St. George? Their best player last year was Blake Laurie. He wasn't. He was out as well. So it was really impressive. Again, Dragons' toughness, ability to defend errors. Flanagan, happy returns. I'm talking about Kyle. When you score in your debut, you're happy with that. I thought it was such a soft try for the Titans to concede, but you'd be optimistic if you're a Dragons fan. And after a couple of very lean years, good on you. You deserve to enjoy that. Move to the game today, which was one I did enjoy it. If you're following my tips and following the pod, at least you would have done the same and you would have enjoyed that one. North Queensland 3-18. So the best bet was -5.5. So you don't have to be a mathematician to figure out we won that nicely. However, you do have to be a mathematician to work out the mixed matchup, which was needing the Cowboys and Titans combined to win 13 plus. And you'd think that North Queensland winning by 25 would be sweet. Imagine if this was the first game, we would have been asking Tristan for an early payout. But as I just mentioned, the Titans didn't just lose, they lost by 24. So we were in such a hole. We needed North Queensland to win this game by 37. What's annoying is North Queensland got the lead on that bogus penalty try. They actually led by 31 with 10 to go. One more try, you get the greatest mixed matchup comeback in history. But in fact, there was a breakaway by the Dolphins that trimmed the lead there. So disappointing in that aspect that you get a game totally right. Again, my same game multi, I lose by one leg. I had Hylam Lukey or Nane to score. They both scored. I had North Queensland to win both halves. They won both halves, but I had the second half to be highest scoring. I couldn't believe how open the first half was. There was 40 points in the first half. So we go down by one leg. We'll go again next week. Look, I just thought I did have a couple of observations about this game. I want to see the comments coming through as well. James Graham says Hammer is a winger, and Craner says bunker shocker in this game. But look, before the game, I heard an interview with Todd Payton. I think he's a sneaky devil. Comes out saying, look, first month of the season, we just want to hold the ball, play field position. That's how you win. And what do? They come out throwing it around left to right, running the ball on last tackle. And that's how they scored the opening try from within their own half, was running it on the last. They really exposed a weakness in the Finns' left edge defense. You've got New defending next to Bostock. In fact, Connolly Lemuelu was just one man inside them. He injured his knee 20 minutes in. That made it worse. That led to another try. Both line breaks involving Labert, who looks like a real promising player for PNG, watching him closely in the Pacific Test. And you watch him today and you feel like that's an instant upgrade over what Peter Hickory was last year. So I really feel like there's some serious speed in this Cowboys side, and they were happy to use it and play that way, which is why the daytime conditions suited them down to the ground. And you do look at the Dolphins and the likes of Kosi, the Bromwich brothers, Nichols, Kerr, like they're not the fastest players. So they were struggling. Some of those guys, can be isolated defending a bit wider. So that's worrying for the Dolphins. And they're not a team that I thought, would do that well this year, but they're probably more of the ilk of St. George, that the Finns will still win games by out-toughing opponents at times. It was just that the Cowboys were too classy. But again, very early days, but North Queensland was a team that after such a disappointing season last year, I still put top 4 this year. So I do see a lot of great signs, some superstars on that team. Drinky looks like he kind of does whatever he wants. Nane, again, is such a handful. So I know Craner in the comments is a diehard Cowboys fan, so he'll be excited. And I'll leave it there. I thought, even though we didn't have Clarkey here, I had more than enough notes to go by. So that's how I saw it, guys. Mixed returns, and I think it's important to note that. Like, look at the game I got wrong, the Titans game. I got it horribly wrong. So that'll happen. So never assume that, every bet's a certainty to come off. We'll certainly get many more wrong as we go, but it's a ride, and we just want to get more right than wrong. And I'll do my best. And again, I've got room for improvement myself because I've admitted some of the mistakes I made last week. So I'll be back to it, back in the lab later in the week, back in the kitchen. I hope everyone has a good start to the week, and I'll see you next Tuesday.